I paid $500 for these. I know that's a lot, isn't it? My wife's gonna kill me. She is. She's gonna kill me. I have a little story behind this.
Hi, and welcome back to Low Buck Garage. Today, I show you how to install from start to finish a set of modern CRF150R forks on your CRF230. Enjoy.
What do we have here? Look what arrived in the mail today. What could this be? As if I didn't know. Well, looks like I got a couple of fork guards here. Those are included. Hey, and an axle. And look at that, it's already drilled out. Can you see that? I don't know. It's like Christmas. Oh yeah. Looky there. CRF 150. It looks like he shipped it with the oil in. I can hear it. I wouldn't have shipped it with the oil in it, but whatever. And they feel really nice. Now I picked these up on eBay. I paid $500 for these. I know that's a lot, isn't it? My wife's gonna kill me. She is. She's gonna kill me. But I saw a lot of 2007 and 2008s. And they just didn't look as nice, and they were, they were in that $300, $400 range, most of them. And these came up for he wanted $550. So, the reason we're going with the CRF 150 forks, instead of like XR 400, which is a good choice too, but I wanted to go down in weight, not up. The XR 400 is gonna add a pound of weight overall. These should take off a minimum of 4 pounds. We're gonna see exactly how much, but from what I've read, it's about 4 pounds weight reduction versus 1 pound of adding weight with the XR 400s, which are great forks. But these, and they're all shiny. This is gonna be really nice. Okay, so we're gonna compare the weight between these two triple clamps, the CRF 230 stock. The key is in it because I'm deleting the key, and we'll see what this one weighs. And it comes in at 5 pounds, 5 ounces. Now, we'll take the CRF 150R, and it comes in at 3 pounds, 4 ounces. So we have over 2 pounds of weight savings here just in the triple clamps alone. So we'll see what the forks themselves, the difference in forks weight. Okay, so we're going to take the CRF 230 forks, the stock forks with springs, the emulators, Racetech emulators in them, and 5 inches from the top of oil. And we have 9 pounds, 6 ounces for one leg, 9 pounds, 7 ounces for the other leg. Okay, so we got about 19 pounds. I'll let you do the math. That's the stock CRF 230 fork legs. Now we're going to take the CRF 150R forks and measure each leg one at a time. The brake caliper side is 7 pounds, 10 ounces. And get it balanced there, and we have 7 pounds, 7 ounces. All right, so there you have it. Okay, to be fair, we really need to add in some things that we're going to have to put in there, and that is the fork protectors with the 150. We're going to add those, and they're at 7.4 ounces. And also, to be fair, we need to add in the axle, okay, because the axle is going to be different. And it runs a nut. On the 150, it runs a nut We're at 9.2 ounces. So remember, we did drill out the CRF230, and so it comes in at 9.5 ounces. Yeah, almost identical. So here we have the new stem, and as you can see, there's just a couple of threads there to catch. There's no threads. No threads sticking up. So what we're gonna have to do is this.
Okay, this is where things are going to get tricky. Again, John and Jack Nagelson came to my rescue at John CNC. They were able to press out the old stem, machine it down with the lathe just a little bit so the bearing would fit over. You'll see what I mean in a minute. So what we have to do is sink the stem up inside the triple clamp just a 1/4 inch. And so I had to resort to using a Dremel, which is probably not the most exact way to do it. It's very carefully though. I got just a 1/4 inch so it would sink up inside a 1/4 inch. We then took the bottom triple clamp back over to John where he pressed in the stem where it needed to be and then pressed on the new bottom bearing.
Okay, so we finally got this thing pressed in. John Nagelson did a good job here. So as you can see, they pressed that. We dremeled that out as you saw, and then we pressed it in a 1/4 inch. That's all we need, 1/4 inch, because that's all the thread we need here. Well, I mean 3/8. I think I actually picked up about 3/8 here, which is plenty. So we are in business, and voila. So there, we now have all the threads that we need. Now we ran into a little bit of trouble with the stock fender rubbing. So what I'm doing is I'm taking off, I don't know, about 1/8 of an inch off these to give me some more clearance. Actually all 4 of these, I'm going to take these down so the fender will be able to suck up just enough. Breathing aluminum dust is very hazardous. Do not breathe aluminum dust. Okay, couple of issues. Nothing terrible. We no longer have a stop that works because the stop was down here and you can see they don't align. So the fix for that was we take off the old CDI box mount here, is we're going to put a bar here. We do the perfect screws here, already set up, so it'll hit here and here. That way we'll get our steering back. Otherwise the forks are gonna bam, slam into the tank, okay? So, solves that problem. We get a little piece of plate that I just cut from stock. We're gonna put it here, we're gonna drill some holes, and we're gonna have ourselves some stops here, as you can see, okay? A couple of grade 8 bolts. So there you have it. So we took the CDI box that was here and now we placed it here. I utilized the stock rubber boot. I just zip tied it right here and it's very solid. And I think it'll be okay there. I don't like the placement for heat, but I don't think it'll be too bad. There you can see it from the other side. It's pretty solid. A couple zip ties, it should be fine. Okay, so because these springs are super soft, the CRF150 has really soft springs for my weight, we take off 2 inches off the spring, which raises the rate of the spring, right? But we have to replace that with space, so we're going to put PVC for that. And I don't know what the rate's going to be. I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but it's going to be better until I can afford some real springs, which, you know, they run 150 bucks. So until then, I'm going to run this little bit higher rate spring and probably some I'm thinking 10 or even 15 weight oil, crank the compression up pretty high, and we'll see how they run. So that's all I can do for right now. I just happen to have some heavy oil. It's heavier than I would normally use. Normally I would use 2.5 to 5 weight, but I just happen to have some fork oil, some 15 left over for a street bike project. So that's all I have right now. But I'm gonna try this, see what happens. You can always drain it out later, right? Now we have the forks all the way compressed. We have our damper rod here. Spring is out. And the factory calls for about 12 ounces. It takes a while to get the oil worked down in there. And you just keep pumping it and get the oil worked all into the damper rod. So it takes a little bit of work. Okay, so now I've just taken a regular syringe. You can buy these, they're cheap. And you can see the mark on there. That's exactly at 4.8 inches, which is the maximum that they recommend for this fork. So if I bring this line down to the top of the fork, okay, so I've got them a little bit overfilled, and that's fine. So we're just going to draw it out until we reach our desired level. There we go. So when I took these forks apart, they were clean. The oil was really clean, so I was glad to see that. Okay, so now I've taken a small wire, put it into the spring. We're going to hook it. We're not going to tie it onto the end. We're just going to kind of snag it so we can pull on it and do this. Okay, there we have it. Now, we can just put our spacer. We're going to have to draw the spring down a little bit, put our spacer on there. If it looks like I'm struggling, it's because I am. So now we're going to take our rod, which, oh, by the way, it's important that the rebound adjuster is put up about that far, about a 1/16 of an inch, between a 1/16 and 1/8 of an inch. 1/8 is too far, so about that far out. That part is really important, because when we put this in, we're going to do very carefully. You don't ever want to bend this aluminum rod, and we just put it in there till we feel it touch the bottom, and you'll feel it right there. You gotta feel when it bottoms out. So now we put the nut up to the top of the cap like that. Okay, you understand that? I think it says 12 pounds. I'd have to look it up, but I'm feeling my arm. It's about 12 pounds. And so with this adjusted at this level here, like I said, or about a 1/16 of an inch sticking up on that rebound adjuster screw, then we slowly screwed the cap on hand tight till we felt it just touch. Then we tighten the nut up to the cap. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense for you guys. So we've got 3/4 of an inch rise now, which is great if you're short like me. I'm 5'9" on a good day, and which is great because the cockpit on the CRF230 is 1 inch lower and 1 inch horizontally skinnier than, let's say, a full-size bike like a CR250 or CR125 or a CR250F. Okay, so what I was running were these, okay, which gave me almost an inch of rise and an inch forward, which for me was perfect. It was just, it's a best improvement you can do. You can do a foot peg movement, which is a lot more work. This is cheaper, easier, and it'll accomplish most of what you want to do. A lot of guys do both. 1 inch forward, 1 inch up, and then with the foot pegs 1 inch back and maybe a ½ inch lower. That gets you into CR250 measurements, which is the triangle is, I don't know if I want to get into this, but handlebar mount to the foot peg. So you got this, that's the triangle. That's called the cockpit. Anyway, in case you're looking at my shirt, this is the story of Burt Monroe. Now I happen to meet the guy who owns this bike, this motorcycle that set a land speed world record in 1965, something like that. And if you haven't seen the movie, The Last Indian, great movie. Anthony Hopkins does an awesome job. It's an awesome movie about this guy from New Zealand. You probably already know the story, so I'm boring you. Quick story short, he goes over from New Zealand, doesn't have any money. He's a backyard garage mechanic like me, a total amateur, but he does things like cast his own pistons. He does his own boring. I don't go that deep into things, but he was basically an amateur mechanic with no money, no sponsorship, set a land speed world record at Bonneville. Amazing story. And that record, I believe it's from 1965, 6, something like that. It still stands today for that category. Amazing story. Got to check it out. If you haven't seen The Last Indian, you're missing it. Anyway, I digressed so badly. I apologize. Okay, so we're back to the subject of risers. Now, I was using these for a while, and these were okay. You know, they rotate this way, and they work. Able to not only bring them up about an inch, which I wanted, but I was able to go forward and back. However, I crashed. Not a bad crash, just kind of went over the handlebars and hit the ground, and the handlebars jerked as I landed, and tink, cast aluminum. They claimed these were billet aluminum. They're not, they're cast, cheap crap. Chinese crap. I think I paid about 35 bucks for these. If you want the real thing, they're gonna run you around 100 and about 100 bucks, I think. So that's what I'll buy next time. I went ahead and I bought these instead. These are actually billet aluminum. They won't break. And I paid a little bit more for these, like, I don't know, 50 bucks, which I thought was pretty reasonable. But they are solid and they're not going anywhere. They're not the best looking things, but they do work. And I was able to raise it up 3/4 of an inch up and 3/4 of an inch forward, which for me was perfect. But now with this more height, I'm gonna have a problem, so we'll see. Anyway, I'm totally off topic, sorry. Speaking of cheap Chinese crap, check this out. You see that? That could have been critical. I don't recommend these pegs. I may get another set, I don't know, but anyway, whatever. So here's the other component you're going to need. And I was lucky enough to get one of these from another rider who just happened to have one. And boy, thank you, buddy. Because these are getting increasingly hard to find. Okay, so we're going to put it on here first. Now, one thing that's important is whatever type you use is you have to have a button head because it's going to rub on the rotor otherwise. Okay, some people use helicoils. I'm using the nut and bolt version, but it's pretty simple. I did put some Loctite on these bolts, just a thin layer of Loctite, and I would suggest you do the same. Loctite is your friend when it comes to things like brake bolts, right? Now I'm going to leave these just medium tight right now. And same thing with these until we get everything all set in. But basically that's it. That's the unit right there. Pretty simple. And the kit is 4 bolts with 2 nuts. Really, this is all there is to the brake caliper adapter. Okay, so I don't even have that very tight right now. Okay. Now we can throw our front wheel on. Didn't say it was easy. I'm lining the axle up. There we go. It's part of it. There we go. And we're through. There we go. And there it is, 50 pounds. Okay. There it is. 22 pounds. Now, how's our spin? All right, we're in there. So if you're getting any kind of binding and you're getting a lot of weird rubbing sounds and the tire just doesn't spin, first I tighten the axle. Then I go and I tighten the caliper. And you may have to unloosen it, spin it, find out what's going on, tighten it back up. And it took me a couple times to get this right. Nice. Okay, on to bigger and better things. Let's see. I had somebody ask me, what is this insignia on my shirt here? And you know, are you is this medical or something? And yeah, I used to work at a hospital for well, I was a psychiatric technician. And what's that? Psychiatric technician is the eyes and ears of the doctor, and you're basically an LVN, not a registered nurse, but an LVN, a licensed vocational nurse. And what you're doing is you're making observations of psychiatric patients, you know, crazy guys like you. And yeah, and I actually worked in a forensic facility, so they were all criminals. Yeah, so it took a lot of patience on my part for 20 years of dealing with criminals who wanted to hurt me most of the time. Not all of them, you know, some were good, just like any other people. Some are good, some are bad. And I managed to stay safe there for 20 long years. It wasn't the funnest job, but it paid okay. And now I'm retired. So anyway, so that's what that insignia means. Psychiatric technician. There's about, I don't know, 7,000 or 8,000 of us in California. And when you have a doctor that's overloaded with patients, he can't handle patients. We are kind of his observation team for letting him know what's going on with the patient. And where's my other cover? Did you see my other cover? It's kind of a different job. It's not for everybody. Let me tell you, it's not for everybody. Had some close calls with some mean hombres, and but I got through it, and here I am playing school. So it was a 60-hour week plus tons of homework. So like I said, it's not for everybody. Sweet. Okay, so you remember this? We shaved these down an 1/8 of an inch or so to get these to raise the fender up because we have some issues. Another little thing I thought of doing was, instead of having the like this, I'm just going to flip them around to the underside instead. So we'll try it that way, and it'll still give it the bracing it needs in there. So by taking an 1/8 here, an 1/8 here, and another 1/8 here, that should be more than enough.
Well, now comes the question. Was this project worth it? Well, considering that I was able to sell my stock forks to almost recoup what I paid for these 150R forks, yeah, it made sense for me. But that didn't account for all my labor, and it was a lot of labor. This video makes it look pretty easy, but you're going to have your share of headaches and hassles with this project. However, I do think it's worth it overall. What you gain is an extra inch of travel from a paltry 9.5 inches to 10.5 inches, which is a lot. You also knock 5 pounds off the weight of the bike, and that's like gold to me. I didn't have a lot of time to do a lot of real testing with the forks. In fact, all I really had time for was a quick trip up to DT1 Raceway in Tulare, California for some practice in the race ruts, and then it was straight down to Glen, Helen the next weekend to run in the World Vet Championships. These forks did perform much better than last year when I was here. It really gave me the confidence that I needed. My big goal this year was to get at least one top 10 finish in one of the 6 motos I entered with the little 230. Did I achieve that? Well, you'll have to see in the next video. The difference in performance is huge. While racing, I was able to charge harder and hang on longer like never before. For me, the project was well worth the time and effort. However, I will say, if you're not planning on racing the bike, this may not be the project for you. You're probably better off with just replacing the stock Marshmallow springs and maybe the Racetech emulators, which I started with, and those were actually pretty good. But what I gained with the 150R forks were vastly superior fork action and practically limitless adjustment possibilities with just a few clicks of a screwdriver. That's also worth its weight in gold. In the next video I'm now editing, I'm going to go into more detail what it was like to race at the World Vet Championships at Glen Helen, and give you some more feedback on the performance of the bike and its other upgrades. I can't begin to tell you what a great event the World Vet Championships are. It's just a great fun event, and it gave me the opportunity to meet and talk with 7-time national champion Jeremy McGrath. He was receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award there, and I was not only able to watch him race in the Vet Pro class, but Jeremy very humbly and graciously autographed my plaque. That was cool. I also managed to meet 6-time national champ Bob Hanna and got his autograph as well. It was a great day. As always, thanks for watching. I hope this was informative as well as entertaining for you. Give me a like, give me a comment, keep the algorithm happy, and please do subscribe.